Into all of it in this class, but we'll get into a bunch of it. And so this will include some rhythm playing. This will include lead playing. Okay. Today we'll begin to learn how to do kind of some guitar solos and stuff like that. And you've got a really cool electric guitar, so you want to be able to do some solos. Fender was my favorite guitar I've ever had, electric guitar. So until I was doing one of those guitar flips, and it came off the strap and went and just crashed. We'll get into some music theory, guys, because it's really important to know a little bit of theory. I know that some people don't feel very positive about theory. They say creativity is all I really need. But I think that we need to have both. All right? I'd say that someone who just uses creativity and doesn't understand the basic theory stuff, it's like playing with one hand behind their back. To me, you see me play in a band context all the time, and you see we're utilizing theory all the time, aren't we? It's really a big deal. So we'll get into that a little bit too. So let's go ahead and let's go to page 3. Page 3, each week I'll have a homework document where as I'm going along, if there's something that you say, oh, I need to practice that this week, just go to the homework sheet and just write it down, okay? Just to remind yourself. You'll know it's on page 2. And yeah, that'll be hopefully helpful for you. Okay, starting with page 4, we're going to get into some rhythm playing. I'd say at the beginning of this class, I want to make sure that we're at least comfortable with the way that we play rhythm, okay? Now, there's a right way and there's a wrong way to play rhythm. Let me show you something. And by the way, I will always record this so you guys can always see the recordings online, okay? We'll send it out after the class. So if you need to kind of re-watch some of the stuff. Okay, this is wrong rhythm playing. Ready? That's awesome. Did you guys see what just happened right there? I've never seen anything like that before.
Balls. So then you can just pair it and stuff.
That is amazing.
It's great for the train.
Nice job, nice job. Cool. Okay, do you see that rhythm playing? Okay, it might have sounded like a rhythm. The problem is that my hand was not strumming consistently. Now watch this. This is a better way to play rhythm. Ready? What did you notice about this as opposed to the other one? What's the difference?
Your hand kept moving.
Hand kept moving consistently, right? And so if you watch someone who's playing rhythm correctly, if you plugged your ears and you just watch them with your eyes, you should see the hand always moving like this consistently. Okay? Now that's really hard to do initially if you're not used to it. Right? Anyone agree with that? It's hard to get that flow going. But a good rhythm player, what they're going to be doing is they will keep that hand moving at all times, and sometimes they'll hit and sometimes they'll miss. So, see that? So always pumping like that. And so typically when I teach this, there's going to be half the class that's going to have to retrain the way that they play rhythm. It's okay, right? I had to do the same thing a long time ago when I was learning this stuff. So we'll just get that down. And so I created a document that will be very helpful for you guys. Go to page 4, and you'll look at these. These are rhythms. I created a chart to help you, kind of work out some of these rhythms. Now, if we take a look at the top one, number 1, how many arrows do you see, or how many strums in that particular rhythm? 8. There's 8. So we're going to call that an 8-stroke rhythm. And so that means there's 8 hand movements, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now, there are dots, black dots underneath some of those, thank you. Black dots underneath some of those arrows. Is that right? Okay, what do the black dots mean? You're going to hit those, right? Now, if there's an arrow and there's no black dot underneath it, what are you going to do? You're going to miss it, right? So this particular rhythm on the top, let's look at that. Let's look at that rhythm, and let's all try to play that real quick, okay? What we can do is we can take our hands and mute the strings, okay? Mute the strings, and just get a click sound. Just very lightly touch all the strings. And this first rhythm, the first stroke is going to be a down and a hit. Let's do it. And then a miss, and then hit, miss, hit, hit. Okay, now if we were to speed that up, listen to what it would sound like. Okay, now if I were to speed this up and do it over and over again, listen to this. And is my hand pumping correctly? Am I consistent with my hand? Absolutely. So what you can do is you can practice this, and my goal for you would be to play this at about 1 second per rhythm and do it, 8 times in a row. Try to get that flow down. Okay, so you see when I get to the very last arrow, what direction is the last arrow? Up. As soon as I go up on that arrow, I want to immediately go back down and start it over again. And that's how you get the flow. So watch a song, ready? Okay, let's try it real quick. Let's try a G chord for everyone who knows a G chord. I probably next week will put in all the basic chords. I'll put a chart in there for you just to make sure we've got all the chords. Oh yeah, do we have more sheets around? Anybody? Is there an extra sheet laying around? Okay, so I printed as many as RSVP for the class. But that's okay if we have more people. You use it here? Yeah, I don't have any more. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, so how does it sound? Let's see if we can do it together. Follow me. Let's go to E minor. Let's go to C. Good job, guys. Okay, let's go to D. Right now. I don't think I've ever seen an intermediate class in the first week, the whole entire class play the rhythm like that. It's good. Very, very good. Now, they get more complicated than this. Okay, I think that 1 is the one that you should get really good at, get comfortable with that. Now look at number 3. Number 3 is twice as long. So we have 16 strokes. We're going to call it a 16-stroke rhythm, okay? And you see that some of the dots underneath there, you see some dots and some arrows that don't have dots, right? Now this one's a little more complicated. You want me to show you what it sounds like? I think this is the most beautiful rhythm that exists. So let's see what it sounds like, okay? You following along? See how it goes? See where I'm playing this? Nice one, right? Okay, so this one, I find that people, it takes people quite a bit longer to learn this one than it does for the 8-stroke rhythm. So it will probably require a good hour of just really practicing it over and over and over again, trying to get that flow down. Some people find it's easier if you cover up the last 8 arrows and you just work on the first 8 arrows for a while. And then you open it up later on. You see? So that might be some good practice for you. You want to give that a shot? It was Ariana, right?
Yeah,
You want to try it? Seem to be playing it pretty well right there. Good. Solid rhythm. It's a really nice one, right? Okay. I think that one is a good one. So 1 and 3 are good. Now let's look at number 4. Number 4 is it's not as common and as useful of a rhythm, but it is a beautiful rhythm that shows up once in a while, and it goes like this. It goes. Rhythm, right? There was a Pearl Jam song that one of my students wanted to play recently, and it used that rhythm. I can't remember how the song goes, but it was really nice. So I would say the most practical ones are 1, 3, and 4. So if you want to put a little star next to those, if you don't have those down, then go ahead and just kind of keep working on it. Okay. Number 2. I would like you to learn eventually, and this has a lot of upstrokes. And the reason I threw that one in there is to start to get you comfortable doing some upstrokes with some kind of offbeat syncopated rhythms. And it sounds like this, okay? It goes. Okay, so if you haven't done a lot of upstroke stuff, this would be good practice for you, okay? I use this a lot when I'm playing songs. Let me show you real quick. See, once in a while, kind of throw in a few upstrokes in a row. So I want you to get comfortable with that. So I think that's a good one to practice. And then the last one goes like this. Okay, so another nice rhythm. But I think 1, 3, and 4 are the most practical for you, okay? So can you guys make sure that you're working on that this week and just really getting that very comfortable and fast? Okay, down the road, I will teach you how to venture into all kinds of different rhythms. But I think we want to start with that, okay? All right, let's go ahead and go to the next page. I put in a few songs. We have Stand By Me, Amazing Grace, and Country Roads on the next few pages. And these songs have chords, and then they have numbers next to it. And the number will tell you how many 8-stroke rhythms you're allowed to do with each chord. Okay? So you can practice rhythm number 1 as you practice playing along with that. Okay? Good stuff. Let's go ahead and go to page 8. So we dealt with rhythm playing, that's your right hand. Now we're going to kind of deal with a little bit of lead playing, doing some solos. And if you ever wanted, have anyone ever heard of the Pentatonic Scale before? Raise your hand if you've heard of it before. Okay, almost everybody hears about the Pentatonic Scale, but they only learn one little section of it. And here's the one that they usually learn. Tell me if you learned this one. Okay, this one? Did you guys learn that one? Almost everybody learns that section, and they don't know what to do with it exactly. Well, what I think every guitarist should do is I think they should learn the pentatonic scale, but they should learn every single pentatonic scale note from here all the way up to the very end. So that when you solo, you can solo all the way up and improvise all over the entire guitar neck. And you also need to do something else. Like, we can learn this whole pentatonic scale, but you've got to have a little bit of practical music theory so that you know what key to solo in. Does that make sense? So take your pens out, and I want you to write something out. I'm going to give you a chord progression to write out. Okay, so if somebody said, okay, the song that I'm going to play right now, it uses these chords. G sharp minor, write it down, G sharp minor, E, B and F sharp. Okay? And if they said, I'm going to play rhythm, and I want you to solo with that. Well, you can learn your whole pentatonic scale, but unless you know what key that chord progression is in, you won't know how to align the scale. Is that right? Okay. So anyone want to take a guess at what key it's in? I don't think we'll be able to. It's not in the key of C minor, no. Not an E. What were the chords that I said?
G sharp minor.
B sharp minor, B and F sharp.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to get into music theory probably next week. And never again in your life are you going to ever have a hard time figuring out what key that's in. That will be easy for you after we have a half an hour to talk about music theory, okay? So that is in the key of B. And so if someone gave you that chord progression, you would need to align your scales up so that it would be in the key of B as in boy, okay? So we'll talk about why that is the case next week, and it'll be very easy and very clear for you. But for right now, let's learn about the pentatonic scale. Okay, here's how it goes. You see this? This is all the pentatonic scale notes on the entire guitar neck, right there. Nothing is missing. It's 100%. And that's what you want. You don't want to learn one section, you want to learn 5 of them. So here's how I want you to think about it. We're going to think about it in 5 different sections. Okay? So here's how it goes. See this? That's one section. Okay? And we'll call that section 1. You don't need to write anything down because I actually, on the next few pages, I have actually broken them down into individual sections. Now look at this. Ready? This next part right there, that's section 2. Okay? Then this part is section 3. And then this part is, take a guess of what that's called.
Section 4.
It's not. That's the thing. You'd think it was. That's going to be section 5, and that's section 6. Okay? Now listen. When it comes to theory, we use something called a major scale, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did you know that the pentatonic scale is not the major scale? Right?
I have a question. How do you separate the sections? Or how do you tell what section is what?
We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Now listen. The pentatonic scale and the major scale are different. How many notes are there in the major scale? There's 7 different notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 and 8 are the same notes, right? They're called that's an octave. Okay. Now pentatonic scale. What does the word penti mean? 5. Okay. That means we actually cut out 2 of the major scale notes. So we don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The pentatonic scale goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8. What notes were left out? Let me do it again. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8. 4 and 7s are dropped out. And if I played on the piano, here's a C major scale. Here's a C pentatonic scale. Okay, and one thing that happens with the pentatonic scale is it has a little more bluesy or rock sound. So what you need to do if you want to solo like a professional is you have to learn 2 scales. And that's it. I don't care what anyone else says. 2 scales and you can solo like a professional. You need to learn the pentatonic scale just like this. And then what we're going to do after you get that done is we're going to learn the major scale. Every note on the entire guitar neck. And so what's going to be interesting is the pentatonic and the major scales are very similar. What do you think's the difference? What do you think the difference is going to be between the pentatonic and the major scale?
2 notes.
2 notes. That's it. So basically what we could do is if we wanted to turn this into the major scale, we could take a pen and just put back in the 4 notes and the 7 notes, and you would have the major scale. Okay? And so when I solo, I do a mixture. Okay? I solo on some pentatonic scale and some major scale. So let's just take a listen to a little improvisation here, okay? And I'm going to move this down so you guys can see it when you watch the video. Okay? So let's do an improvisation. You think that's major scale or pentatonic? What do you think? Sounds bluesy and rocky, right? It's all pentatonic. Every note that I hit was pentatonic, okay? Do you hear the difference between pentatonic and major scale at all?
Yeah.
Okay, one more time. Here's pentatonic. Major scale, right? So you see, when I solo, I do a mixture. I'll do 2 seconds of pentatonic, then a little burst of major scale, and then back to pentatonic. That's what you need to do. And so it's not actually that hard. It's not that hard. The gentleman I was just teaching right before you guys came in, he started as a beginner 6 months ago, and he knows major scale and pentatonic scale all the way up and down the neck. It's not that hard. So what we've got to do is we've got to memorize 5 sections. Go ahead and go to the pages 9 and 10. Okay? You see that? We're starting to break down our sections. And if you want, I'm sorry, what is your name? Vladimir. Well, good to meet you. When you take off, you can just take this. Okay? You can take this home with you. Look at the numbers up on top. This is super important that you associate this particular section right here with the 1 section. You want to associate it with the number 1. And next week I'll start to show you why. In about 2 weeks it'll be very clear why you want to have these numbers associated with it. Okay? Now this section right here, you see, look at the positioning. They kind of stack next to each other, don't they? And you see that the bottom of this section is the same shape as the top of the next section. Did you notice that? So they fit together like puzzle pieces, don't they? Yeah, make sense? Okay, so there's 5 sections. Let's go ahead and flip the page again to 11 and 12. We have, on page 11, we have section 3. And on page 12, we have section 5. Again, do you notice the shapes? They fit like puzzle pieces, right? Yeah, and then we have one more section, section 6. And is that the one that you guys knew, a lot of you guys? Yeah, that's definitely... A lot of people, what they do is they end up fumbling around on YouTube, and they'll stumble upon that one section, and no one teaches them how to use it. They just teach them how to play it. And that's not going to be useful. You've got to learn the scales, and then you have to learn some practical music theory, and then all of a sudden it just like explodes in your head. You totally get everything. Okay? So let's play through these real quick, okay? Can we try playing through section 1? I'm going to give you, take your pens out, and I'm going to give you the fingering for what fingers to use when you play this, okay? And this will be your 1 finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not going to use our thumb when we're playing. So the first 2 notes are going to be 2 and 4, and you can fill it in like this. See that? So middle finger and pinky. And the philosophy for how we're going which fingers to use is that I want the least amount of hand movement. Okay? So it's going to be 2-4, and then the A string it'll be 1-4. Same thing on the D string. D as in dog. Okay? G string is 1 and what? 3. And then the last two are what? 2-4, 2-4. And that makes it so that there's the least amount of hand movements possible. Now, as we pick this, what we want to do is we want to pick with alternating picks. Okay? All right. Romeo. Pick on the top string as fast as you can.
Alternating?
Nope, just down. Now watch, see if I can beat him. If he can only go down, he's going to be going, twice as slow as I am, right? So that's why when we're doing our scales, we want to learn to alternate picking. So we go like this. Okay? Watch my fingers. And my pick, right? When I get to the bottom, the very last note, the bottom note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it only one time, and I'm going to come back. So the bottom string, how many times am I going to hit the bottom string? 3. Watch me, ready? Did I ever do 2 downstrokes in a row or 2 upstrokes in a row? Never. Ready? Down, up, 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 down. Now, I'm going to set some goals for you, some speed goals. Because if nobody sets speed goals for you, it's going to take you years to get fast at this. But if we set speed goals in like 2 months, you could get very fast at this. So what you need to do is you need to start to time yourself. So you take a stopwatch, and you take your phone out and press go, and then you go as fast as you can, hit that last note once and reverse it, and you go all the way back, stop. And you take that and you write it down on the sheet of paper, right? And you start to record it, because you have to compete with yourself. Don't compete with each other, because you all have different amounts of time to practice, and you've been playing for different lengths of time. But you compete with yourself, and what happens is you'll get very, very fast in a very short period of time. Okay? So how fast do I want you to get eventually? Down, to be able to play down and up, all the way down and all the way up. That's 23 notes. How fast? 4 seconds. I want you to get under 4 seconds. That's the goal. Okay? And if some of you guys might, if this is new to you, it might take you 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. I've seen people take that long to just do it for right now. But you speed up really, really quickly when you start to time yourself. So I would expect that in about 1.5 months, I would think the whole class could be under 4 seconds. So you're doing 23 notes in under 4 seconds. All right? And I'll give you some technique too over the next couple weeks. I'll give you some more technique. Okay? Let's go ahead and let's check out the second section. Okay, I'll give you the numbers again. Okay? The first 3 strings are 2-4, 2-4, 2-4. And then we have the G string is 1-4, and then the B string is 1-4. And so what do we have to do from the G string to the B string?
1-3.
We have to, now they're both, G string and B string are both 1 and 4. So that means there actually has to be a shift of your hand, right? And then your final E string is 1 and 3. And you'll use the exact same fingers when you're going backwards. Same fingers, okay? Okay, can someone want to try improvising on that section right there real quick? I'll play some chords. All the notes that I'm giving you are in the key of G. Okay? So let's do some improvisation. How do the notes sound? Did it sound right? Now go back to the 1 section and let's try soloing on the 1 section. These will be the exact same notes, except they're just played on a different part of the guitar. Okay? How many different notes altogether are there on this entire pentatonic scale?
5.
Just 5. That's it. It's just repeating the same 5 all over the guitar neck. That's it. Okay? Should we try the first section? Does it work? That works? Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so if you give yourself a month to speed up a little bit, all of a sudden it's going to start sounding like music. Okay, let's go to section 3 and 5. Section 3, you could probably figure out what numbers we're using. First 2 strings, 1, 4, 1, 4. E and A string. The D and G string are 1, 3, 1, 3. And then the B string is 2, 4. And the E string is 1, 4. Okay? Should we try it? Make sure we start on the 7th fret, and it should sound good. Fifth section, it's symmetrical, so it's pretty easy. 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4. All right, and then the sixth section, you guys probably know how that goes, but we'll say it anyways on page 13. 1, 4. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, and then 1, 4, 1, 4. And it's very important that you learn these fingers. Don't cheat. A lot of people, they don't like to use their pinky because your pinky's the weakest, right? And I don't want you to be doing everything with 1 and 3. I mean, if it needs the pinky, let's use the pinky, right? We're going to get that pinky strong. And it also will make a difference once we get to the major scale as well, because you have to use your pinky all the time. So let's just do it the right way when we learn it, okay? Got it?
Yep.
Cool. Do we want to try attacking the music theory today or no?
Yeah.
Should we try it? Okay. We'll have, yeah?
I was gonna ask, like, it's like I sing the notes in my head, and I've always had trouble, like, whether to sing it like it's a sol is G, or sing it as like when it starts with like the section 1. Do I sing it with La instead? Like so like do I sing sol la G re mi sol la Si, or like
Do.
La do re mi sol la
Yeah,
Si?
that's exactly right. That's a great question. The reason that I gave section 1 the name section 1 is because it starts on the first note. Okay, so if we go back to page 8. Very good question. If we go to page 8, I want you to put a star in that little circle right there. Put a star. Or an asterisk or something.
That's the third fret?
Third fret on the fat E string. That is the root. Okay? So these 5 sections that I showed you, they fit together like train cars on a train track. They actually are connected to each other. And when one of them moves, what happens to the other one? They have to move together, right? If you take 5 train cars that are connected to each other and you move one of them, what happens to the other one? They all have to move. And so this we call the first section because that note has to start on the note of the key. So if it's in the key of G, then we have to take this section 1 and we have to start it on what note? G. And then everything else should fall right into place. So if we wanted to play, remember the chord progression that I gave you earlier. What key did I say that was in? B. So if you want to solo, if you want to take this first section and solo in the key of B, what would you do? That's right. Can we try it? Let's try it. So I'll play those chords in the key of B. And you got to go up to your 7th fret where you're going to find your B note, right? Is that your B note? 7th fret?
Yes.
What section are you going to play there? 1. Because whatever key you want to be in, you've got to put your 1 section there. Okay, let's see what it sounds like. Ready? How did it sound? Did it work?
Yes.
Okay, let's give you another quiz. If I was going to play in the key of A, where would you play the 1 section? Let's see. How did it sound? Sounded great, right? Pretty cool. Now, once we get the second section, why did I give it the name the second section? Did I just randomly give it that name, or is there some kind of theory associated with it? It starts with the second note, doesn't it? Yes, it does. The third section, why did I give it the name the third section? Starts with the third note. And this is why, remember, we didn't have a 4th section. Remember? I tricked you.
Yeah.
And the reason that we didn't have the 4th section is because we, in the major scale, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But in the pentatonic scale, we cut all the 4 notes and all the 7 notes. And that means that you're not going to have any pentatonic section starting on the 4th note because the 4th notes are gone. Right? And the 7th notes, they're gone. So we have a 1 section, 2 section, 3 section, 5 section, and 6 section. And each section is given the number that it starts on. Okay, so you want to wrestle with that a little bit. Now I'll tell you what. We have 15 minutes left, so I don't think we're going to be able to get into all this theory stuff today. This thing will blow your mind when you get through it. It will change. You will never be able to look at music again the same way. You'll be able to look at songs and very quickly figure out what key it's in just by scanning over the chords. You'll just be like, you could do it in 2 or 3 seconds. Figure out what key it's in, and then you know how to solo in that key. But if you don't know what key a song's in, you're not going to be able to solo in that key, right? Because you won't know what key to solo in. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start it off. I think you guys have plenty of stuff to work on this week. I would like you to memorize the first 5 sections of the pentatonic scale by next week. Okay? Write that down in your homework sheet. Yes, Mia. That's what we should do. Now, does everybody do it?
I mean, the first 5 sections is the all sections, right? There's only
Right. Yeah. Okay, so what helped me when I was memorizing these is to just analyze the twins. Okay? You see, like in the first section, you see that these 2 strings are twins. And these 2 strings are twins, you know? That helped me to kind of just like map it out a little bit. And so basically what I urge people to do whenever they sit down to practice is run over all the sections of the pentatonic scale. Just make that, like for the next 6 months of your life, just make that your routine. You just sit down, you go first section, second section, third section, fifth section, sixth section. And please don't practice it wrong. Because if you're trying to use your ear and you're practicing it and you're allowing mistakes quite often, what's going to happen is it's going to stop you from getting a good rut in your mind. Does that make sense? If you take the same path over and over and over again, you're going to get a good rut. But if you keep allowing yourself to kind of, mess up, it's going to slow down your process. So my recommendation for these first weeks is to just have this thing in front of you. Don't rely on your ear. Just do it exactly like it says. And by repeating it over and over and over the right way, you're going to memorize it really deeply. Okay? Okay, let's go to the theory. Page 14. Without a doubt, this is the most important thing you can ever learn about music. I'm serious. Without this stuff right here, there's like 90% of the stuff that we can learn over the upcoming months you could not touch. And so this is really important. Okay, so there'll be 3 segments to this music theory thing. I don't know if we can get into all of them because it's kind of a whole semester of music theory, but we'll do what we can. So right here, we're going to figure out how to find the notes in a key. The next part, we're going to figure out how to create major, minor, and diminished chords. And I want you to understand the concept of what makes a chord major, what makes it minor, what makes it diminished. And then finally, this is the important one down here. You need both of these to understand the third one. This is how to find the chords in a key. So if you want to write a song, you need to know what chords are going to fit into a key, right? You're going to write a song in a particular key. That will also help you if I threw a chord chart in front of you. You can look at it and analyze it, and using the music theory rules, you can figure out what key it's in, and then you can solo in that key. Okay? It'll also help you for transposing. There's a song that uses a bunch of bar chords. You can just transpose it to a better key that's more comfortable to play. So, okay, number 1 of 3, how to find the notes in a key. How many different notes are there in a key? There are 8, but 1 and 8 are the same, so there's basically 7 different notes. How many different notes are there altogether in the world? What did you say? 12. So there's 12 notes in existence. We have C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. Where did I start? C? You're good. But there are 2 notes that don't have sharps, and what are they? B and E. So think of a bumblebee floating around if you ever are trying to figure out which notes don't have sharps, and it's just like a little, memory game. Okay, so anytime there's a note that is right next to each other on that list of 12, they're going to be called half step apart from each other. Is that right? So from C to C sharp, how far is that? Half step. If you skip a note on that list of 12 and you go to the next note, how far is that? So from C to D.
Full step.
Full step, right? What about E to F? Is it a whole step or a half step?
Half full step.
It's a half step because there isn't an E sharp. So if you listed up all the 12 notes right in a row, if they are sitting next to each other, I don't care if it's a black key or white key on the piano. If they're right next to each other, it's a half step. If you skip one of those notes and go to the next note, that's a whole step. Okay? So let's do this. Underneath the number 1 here, write G. Okay? And we're going to figure out the notes in the key of G. So every note, as you go along here through the numbers, every note is going to be a whole step, except in 2 places. In 2 places, it will only be a half step. And I put little triangle, kind of pyramid-looking things right there to remind you where they are. So from 1, in the key of G, or the major scale of G, the first note is what? G. You're going to go a whole step to the second note. And what is that going to be? A. So put A underneath 2. From 2 to 3, how far is it going to be? It's going to be a whole step. And what is that going to be? From A to what? B. Pay attention, folks, because this is the most important thing you could ever learn about music. I guarantee, right here. It's a little complicated, but not too bad. Now, from 3 to 4, how far is that?
Half step.
It's a half step. Okay, so what is that going to take you to?
C.
C, because there's no B sharp, right? Okay, from 4 to 5, how far is it? Whole step takes you to what?
D.
Okay, from 5 to 6, it's how far?
Whole step.
What does that take you to?
E.
E is in Edward. 6 to 7, how far is it?
Whole step.
Okay, what does that take you to?
F sharp.
F sharp. And then from 7 to 8, what is that?
Half step.
A half step to what? G. So you see 1 and 8 are the same. Okay, every scale in the world follows that exact same pattern, you guys. Did you know that? Every major scale in the world, all of the numbers will be a whole step apart except for 2 places. And where are the half steps? 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. Let me see if you guys can do this. You each pick your own key now, and underneath the G major scale, write a new key, and see if you can figure that one out. Okay? You can pick D, you can pick E, you can pick A, you can pick B, C. Don't pick C, that's too easy. Pick a different key. Okay? Try something out. If you feel a little confused about this, it might be that you haven't memorized the 12 notes yet, and that's okay. All you got to do this week, just go memorize the order of 12, and that's prerequisite information. So I would expect that there would be some people that haven't memorized that yet. Go home and memorize those 12 notes, and then watch the video, and it will definitely click more. But it's impossible to understand what I'm saying unless you have memorized those 12 notes, and that's it. Just go memorize the 12 notes. And by next week, we'll review this, and it'll be fun. Okay, did you guys write down your own keys? Anyone want to go public? Hey? This is my wife, Renata, and baby Hava. Anyone want to go public?
I'll go public.
Okay, Romeo, go for it.
D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, C sharp.
It would be C sharp and then D.
Yeah.
D would be the 8. And C sharp would be the 7. And guys, you can test yourself because if 1 and 8 are the same, you probably got it right. Okay? So you see that's how every scale works. And so if somebody wrote a song in the key of G, okay, and you go to your favorite band and they're playing a song up on the stage in the key of G. If you had a magic remote control and then halfway through the song you just pause them, every note being played on the entire stage will probably be on those notes, those 7 notes. Do you think there will be any G sharps being played? No way. Do you think there will be any A sharps being played? Not if they're professionals, right? So, are there going to be any D sharps being played? They're going to be probably those 7 notes. Unless we're getting a little complicated, but like most songs will stick with that, okay? See how that works? Okay. I think that's a good first, we'll get that first part of music theory down. By next week, we'll probably get into all the rest of it. And I would expect by the end of next week, if I wrote out a chord progression and I said, what key is this in? D, F sharp minor, E, and A. You would be able to figure out what key that's in, just like that. No problem. And then you can just grab your guitar and start soloing in that key. Okay? Cool. Good stuff, guys. Can you make sure you're really comfortable with this concept of these scales? I go to your homework sheet and write down, try to do this stuff, even see if you could start to do this stuff in your head, using fingers like this. When you're in the subway, you can go, okay, key of E. E. Whole step to F sharp. Whole step to G sharp. Half step to A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. See? You can start to practice this in the subway, okay? Cool. Renata.
Yes, so just want to make sure that we have everybody's email address because we film the class, we film every single class, and I will email out the class